All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome back to the Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick here are going to be breaking down our top 10 interior linemen for the 2022 NFL Draft. 5 on offense, 5 on defense. Kicking things off at number 1, Tylerlinderman, the center from Iowa, 6'3", 290. This guy was back-to-back years the top interior lineman in college football. He's a great run blocker. He leads the way on screens. He's very physical. He's also a very strong pass protector. Nick, he needs to add some more strength and a little bit more weight. But from a fundamentals standpoint and discipline standpoint, Linderbaum checks all the boxes, and it was kind of a shock to see him even return to school last year. And he even thought about doing it again this upcoming season, but he does enter the draft, and he should be a late first, early second round selection.
It's interesting to see that he could have potentially returned to Iowa, like you said, and I think that would just raise his draft stock some more. But he kind of fits into that perfectly, that 15 to 25 range for me, where I think some teams are get a really talented center. Of course, the weight is a little bit of concern at 290. That's a little too undersized for me. I don't really know if I like that much in a center, but I look at him. Had a great career at Iowa. Has that built-in leverage to win as a low man. Good balance. I love it. He has great anchor ability as well. He kind of sits there and it's really good. Is there. It's definitely grown over the time at Iowa. It's definitely getting a lot better for him. I really like this kind of football IQ he has on the field. He can make plays. He knows what he's doing. I like his blocking ability. And when you get a guy like this who's been one of the best interior offensive linemen in college football for the last 2 seasons playing at center, that's a great pickup for a team that could really use the center. I look at a team like Philadelphia. I think he might fit in very well there. So I think Linderbaum's a very talented player. He's definitely the best interior offensive line for us, but where does he fall is going to be the question on draft day. Does he slip a little bit? Is it potentially slips towards the bottom of the first round? I think that's really there for sure. But I like Linderbaum a lot. He slots in a number 1 with ease for us.
I think if he slips, it's going to be because of positional value, because you've seen him go, top 8, and then you see him fall to the mid-second round, or at least early second round, you should say, on some mock draft. So it's really positional value. I think Philadelphia, that'd be pretty good with Jason Kelsey closing in on the end of his career. It's probably going to be his final year. So that'd be a good spot for him to come in, learn a bit, and then he'd instantly probably be a Pro Bowler right after that. We'll see what happens, though. Like you said, though, strength and weight, that combo, it's not great to be lacking in both those areas, but, guess what? That's you don't have, that's not something you got to worry about. It's not a skill set thing. You can easily get in the weight room, whatnot, and get bigger, stronger. So I'm not too worried about that. His hand placement as well. I think they'll coach him up a little bit in that area, but he won the Remington Award last year. He was the finalist the year before that, so he's obviously been in high regards for many years. Linderbaum, unanimous number 1 here. Number 2, Kenyan Green, 6'4", 325. He's very versatile, even though he did struggle left tackle at times last year. He projects as an interior lineman here in the NFL. And I think as a plug and play, he could be an interior guard or maybe even a center from day one. He's very disciplined, very strong. He's a great run blocker. And I think the biggest reason he probably projects as an interior right away is because he needs help in pass protection, but he's very stout as a run blocker. You want to get him on the field. He needs to work on his motor a little bit. He stops his feet on contact occasionally, but I like what he provides as an athlete and maybe a little bit as a project player as well. But I think back end of the first round seems to be the best selection for him. Maybe with Cincinnati. You're very high on Green, though, kind of like Linderbaum.
A guy that comes in, a 5-star recruit out of high school in the state of Texas, goes to A&M, kind of plays all over the place. They played him at 4 different positions on the offensive line this past season. He definitely moved around a little bit. He has that sort of IQ that we picked up from playing 4 different positions over his career. He played everywhere but center. And like you said, the plug and play is definitely there for him. You look at a team like Cincinnati, like you said, towards the end of the first round, I think you could plug him in anywhere on the offensive line. Really, you can start to see some production of him. Left tackle was a little shaky at times, and like you said, I don't really know if his motor's there, but I like his flexibility. Like I said, and the versatility, very strong there. Good out of the stance. I like the quick first step he has. In general, very talented player. I love the size. We were talking about size of Linderbaum. You look at him, he's 6'4", 323, Kenyan Green. I like that size, very strong in that regard. So I think, if you get him in the sort of late first round, early second round, that's a very talented player. You can plug in really anywhere on the offensive line, maybe outside of center since he doesn't have experience there, and get a productive player from day one. He had a good year at Texas A&M, a little bit disappointing by some regards, but had a good year overall, had a good game against Alabama when they upset them at Kyle Field. So I really like this guy. I think he has real potential here, and it could be a good late first round pick for a team.
You don't really move around too much on the offensive line in terms of individual players. They don't shuffle a lot in the NFL. So that's another reason why I think this gives him a great opportunity to grow on the interior. I think Green has a high upside, like all the other guys on this list, including Zion Johnson, who as of late has really skyrocketed up boards. You've been saying it since early on in the process. 6'3", 316. He's not the biggest. He's not exactly massive or overwhelmingly powerful, but he's a very smooth athlete. He's not really a mauler in the run game, but he's a very good run blocker, high-end football IQ. He does have that versatility as well, but again, I think he's probably going to play guard, kind of like Kenyan Green. Very good hands. I do think he plays too high at times. His technique could use some refinement, but overall, Zion Johnson, a very good kid, very good ball player as well.
I've talked about Zion Johnson at length on this show because I really like his talent. A guy that played at Davidson, then transfers to Boston College and kind of just seamlessly plugs in there for the Eagles. Has a really good two seasons in Boston College. I really like what he can do. I love his aggression. I think he's very aggressive. Sometimes maybe a little too aggressive, but in general, I think that's a good thing to have. It's okay to be a little too aggressive. I think he fits in at guard, like you said. That's his best position. Probably right guard would be a good spot for him on an offensive line. I think that really fits well. I like his run blocking ability. There definitely is some concerns at times, but in general, I like his aggressiveness. I like his football IQ, really high football IQ. And I think that comes from the experience of playing at Davidson, then playing at Boston College. Very talented player. One of those guys that kind of stood out for me this year when I watched the Eagles play. Very talented in that regard. I like the way that he stands out. I love his high motor at times. Very talented player, and I really think that he's been underrated in this draft. I think that's just positional value. That's going to underrate him a little bit. But in general, Zion Johnson's a great player, and if you grab him in the late second round, that could be a really good pick for your team.
There's players every year that slide in the back end of the first round that really shock people. And I know you just said back of the second, but I definitely think he's going to go within the top 50 selections. I think there's a couple of teams there like Tampa Bay, Cincinnati, that could use some more help on the interior. I think Zion will certainly be a candidate there. We'll see who is available. If guys like Green and Linderman are still available, and those teams will probably go with them. But Zion, we'll see what happens. He is definitely a lock for the top 50, I would say. Looking at number 4, Darnell Canard. One of my favorite players in the draft, 6'5", 324, played left tackle at Kentucky. He projects as an interior, though, because he's such a mauler in the run game. Very wide base. The lateral agility he possesses is phenomenal. Long arms. I like his athleticism. He's not a bad pass blocker. I think he's pretty good, moderate, I'd say, in that category. But, Canard projects as an interior guard, I think, at the next level. He does overshoot at times. And his pass protection does need a little bit of refinement as well. But I do like Canard as a day one starter to make an impact for any team in the trenches that need help.
I love Kennard's ability to plug in. Like you said, he's very strong in the run blocking. That's definitely his best attribute. The pass blocking does leave a little bit of concern. I think he can just polish that a little bit. He's a very highly experienced player, played 3+ years in the SEC, very strong. And that Kentucky offensive line this past season had a very strong offensive line, and much in credit to Eric Wolford, who left and joined Alabama. In general, Canard was a standout for me on that offensive line, very strong player. And I like the ability, like you said, the run block is really strong with this guy. You plug him in day one at a team, I think he can really start to produce for them. And I really like his size as well. Very, fits kind of right in that range which you want an offensive lineman that's 6'5", 322. I really like that a lot. In general, I think this guy's a very talented player, and he slots in here at 4 on our list. I think that's a very good spot for him, kind of where he belongs. There were some questions. You look at the tape. The game against Georgia was a little weak, but the game against LSU, some other games, South Carolina, Florida, he had some good games across the season. I think this guy's a very talented player, a great starting guard, plug in day one, perfect for me.
And jumping to number 5, the third player from the SEC and our top 5 interior offensive lineman, Ed Ingram from LSU. This is kind of another high riser here of late. Very strong lower body. The power he possesses is also terrific. He's always active. He's always looking to clean up in the trenches. He lacks explosiveness, and he's not exactly a strong profile standpoint, but he's nasty. He cleans up, always looking for somebody at the next level. And I think the physical traits really stand out. Ed Ingram, sure, rated player, a lot of people probably didn't expect or probably haven't even heard before. They probably didn't expect him to be on this list. But Ed Ingram, I think he's going to be a very solid player. I'm not sure if he's a day one starter, but I think down the line he's going to be a quality offensive lineman.
I think Ingram's more of your project player. I think he definitely, like you said, not day one, sort of towards the future looking this. He's played right guard and left guard at LSU. He has that good experience and the high football IQ that comes with playing 2 positions like that. He's good on the run game. I really like him on the run game as well. His good hand placement on the run game. Like you said, he's always looking to make a play, always looking to be involved in the play. He doesn't quit on plays. I really like that. The lateral mobility is there. His balance, he has solid balance as well. Kind of lacks the explosiveness like you mentioned. In general, I love the high football IQ here, and sort of this guy's more of a project player. You take him, you kind of let him sit on the bench for a little bit, let him get some experience late in the season, and then you transition to him in the future. Can play either guard. It's definitely get some snaps at tackle as well. I like him a lot. I think this is a good player to slot at number 5. He has a really strong potential. High ceiling for this guy. Interesting to see how he does.
I think unanimous number 1, Jordan Davis, 6'6", 340. Great athlete for that size, and he showed it at the combine, a 4.75 40. 32-inch vertical, 10-3 broad. Those numbers really don't matter that much for a run-stuffing defensive tackle. It's just a complete space eater. But it adds more cream to the cake. Outside of Davis's terrific athletic profile, what else do you like about the reigning defending national champion?
His run stopping ability is second to none. That guy can just make tackles. He just stands there. He blocks plays. I love the size, 6'6", 340 is incredible size for interior defensive lineman. He just makes plays. There's little concerns about his third down capabilities, and he's more of a first and second down player. He gets gassed out a little bit easy. But I love the way he stops the run. You're not going to get by him if you're running at him. He's very strong, great tackler. I love what he can do with that. He isn't the combine stats are very impressive, and it definitely shocked some people. I love his football IQ as well. I think you get a good athlete here, and if you get a team, look at a team like Buffalo. If he falls there, they don't need him to play 3 downs immediately. He can play first and second down, get some rest. I think that'd be a great fit for him. I really think that this player can develop into a really strong interior defensive lineman in the NFL. I mean, had a great season at Georgia, really strong against the run. I like him a lot, and I think those combine stats have made a lot more people interested in him because there's some question marks about how he'd do at the combine with the question about his speed and commitment to the play. He's seen a little lackluster and sometimes against Alabama in the SC title game, but in general, such a talented player and easily the number 1 player for us on this list.
I don't think he'll fall to Buffalo after his combine. I think Pittsburgh or Los Angeles, 2 teams that really struggle against the run, are definitely going to eat him up. They're going to love to get this guy, especially after that combine. Again, he's not a 3-down player, like you said, though. Limited upside as a pass rusher, but he's massive. You already know what you're going to get. You see it on film. You see it with his physical traits. You know what he provides, and he's going to do a very good job doing so. So I think Davis, number 1 defensive tackle, even though he is very limited as a pass rusher, as a run stopper, he's going to do everything you want him to do, especially if you have other great guys around him, too. He can be a rotational player. That's his best role, and that's where a team like Buffalo would love to have him in a rotational effort. We'll see what happens with Davis. Very excited to see where he ends up. There's a lot of situations that are better than others. So if he ends up in the ideal one, he could definitely be a big-time player for many years. Looking at his Georgia teammate, Devontae Wyatt at number 2, 6'3", 315. These guys are, they're both on that stout defensive line for the Bulldogs, but these guys are pretty different players. Wyatt, he's an exceptional pass rusher from the interior. I think he's got very quick feet. Like Davis, he's a very strong tackler, quick hands. Wyatt's not great physically. His arm length isn't impressive, when his strength is only moderate, but from an interior rushing standpoint, he's got a pretty good motor. He fights hard. And again, he comes from that regime at Georgia where it's nothing but winners, and he's been coached up very well. And then get him into the pros and do it again. I think this is a player with a lot of upside. I've seen some mock drafts where he slides into the top 15. I think I've seen him as high as 14 to the Ravens. How do you feel about Wyatt heading into this year's draft?
When you flip from Davis to Wyatt, you get a guy that can play 3 downs interior defensive lineman that can be position versatility. He can play anywhere, like you said. That pass rushing ability is really talented there. He was a 4-year contributor at Georgia and just seemed to get better every season. As a senior, he kind of had that breakout year during the national championship run. I love his speed, like you said. I love his first step. Very strong, very quick. Love the motor there. Very versatile. Like I said, he can really play anywhere along the line of scrimmage there, and he can just absolutely be a menace to the quarterback. I think 14 to the Ravens, that would be a great fit if they want to reach a little bit. I think that would be a solid fit. Like I said, love the speed here, love the use of the hands. The arm length, like you said, that's a bit of a concern. And, he definitely, maybe there's some size concerns there, but in general, I think Wyatt's just a really talented player and slots in perfectly here at number 2 on our list.
Every year, people have those players come in the draft that they absolutely love. And number 3, Travis Jones, he's that player for me. One of them, that is 6'5", 333, very strong, violent hands. Great brute strength, penetrates gaps very well, closes the running lanes. He's got a high-end motor, very impressive bull rush. I absolutely love Travis Jones. He put on a show at the combine, and I think he's going to do the same thing at the pros. He does play too high at times, and the fundamentals can be a little shaky. But, no one watches UConn tape, but they watched it against Clemson for this guy only, and he's certainly impressed. I think he's definitely a lock for the top 50, kind of like Zion Johnson was.
You love him. I love Travis Jones. When you look at the tape against UConn, like you said, not a lot of people are watching UConn, but when you watch the tape, this is a guy that stands out. Compared to a guy like Jeremiah Johnson, when you look at the tape, they stand out. That's an impact player that you see on the field. I love his motor, like you said, very constant motor. He does get a little overexcited sometimes and maybe commits a little too much on the play, but in general, he had a great Senior Bowl, had a great combine. There's so much to like about this guy. I love the size here. I think 6'4", 325 is perfect. That is a great size. The motor is there. He has really impressive lateral mobility. He's always working hard. I love what he can do. He's a powerful man. He can make great tackles. And when you get a guy that comes out of a school like UConn, this is a great player for me. Top 50 lock, like you said. I think that's a great fit for him. I think, in the 45 to 50 range is where he belongs. The explosiveness is a little bit questionable. That's the only thing I kind of worry about. But in general, I love the motor, love the speed. This is a great player, and I think he's going to be great in the NFL.
Speaking of other underrated players that come from the JUCO level, Perrion Winfrey here at number 4. I seen him at the Senior Bowl, and I wouldn't have guessed he was 303 pounds mixed with that 6'3" stature, because he seems quite slim for being that size, but he definitely uses that entire frame to good use. Uses his length very well as well. Nice get off. The first step's highly impressive. Nice lateral agility as well. The motor, he has, the motor mixed with his legs and the lateral agility, highly impressive. I think those are his best attributes. The forceful hands he possesses is impressive, but the placement isn't great. I think that's his biggest area for improvement. And, the moves in the pass rushing game, they're lacking as well. But he never gives up, especially when he's bull rushing. And, not just in pass protection, but when coming to stop the run as well. I think if you can get him in the right situation, coach him up a good bit, this could be a really good player down the road.
Looking at a guy who transfers out of JUCO, then comes to Oklahoma, has a great 2 years in Oklahoma. I really like what he can do. Very strong, like you said. The speed is there. The hands, I definitely a little worried about that. The quick first step is super impressive, and the lateral mobility is definitely something that you notice it on the field. I love that. I love his athletic flexibility as well. The football IQ. He has experience playing in different leagues. I like that a lot in a player. I think that's good. He's faced multiple blocking schemes. I think that's going to help him as well. And in general, I think this is a very strong player. I like his first step. That first step is so impressive. The speed is a little questionable after the first step, but in general, I think he's a very strong player. His size, it doesn't look like he's 303, like you said. Maybe that's to do with the 6'4" height as well, but in general, Winfrey's a very strong player. I think he's a great potential in the NFL.
And rounding things out on the list, DeMarvin Leal at number 5. He was projected to be a top 5 selection coming into the season. And, that's not how things panned out for him. The combine was awful on top of a season that was solid, but I think lackluster would be the best term to use. 5-second 40, a 27.5-inch vertical, and 8'10" broad. Terrible numbers for, a player that a lot of people were high on because of his athleticism. He does have great strength. He's very versatile. He can play anywhere on the defensive line. Interior, he can play outside at the edge. I like his bull rush. And he also does have that quick first step, but the effort isn't always present. The pass rushing moves as well, they're not evident one bit. And he's also taken out pretty easily by double teams. Just the effort needs a lot of work. And then I don't know what went wrong with the athletic profile that we thought he had. Can you try and pinpoint why Leal is down here at 5?
It's tough for me to understand because Leal comes out of high school as a 5-star recruit. He's kind of Jimbo Fisher's first real massive get in College Station, and you really thought that he was going to turn this around and just be an absolute dominating freak, and he was a projected top 5 pick. But this year, especially against Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, he just struggled. The speed is there, like you said, but if he gets double teamed, that's it. He's out of the game. He's no production there. He gives up on plays a little too easily. The hustle just isn't really there. And it's just disappointing because, like you said, he's such a strong athlete, and there was real potential with him at College Station. And this year was just a disappointing year, and the combine stats did not help. So he falls a little bit, but if he can start to put that work ethic in and kind of change his attitude a little bit, he can be a real strong player in the NFL and be a great late round pick for a team because he's just going to fall to that at that point because it's just a disappointment from the lack of effort this year and at times and just disappointing film and poor combine stats. Leal, he has everything it takes to be a great player in the NFL, but just to see if he can put the effort in, and I question if that's going to happen this year.
The numbers weren't terrible. 12.5 tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. When you look at the film, everything we just said, it was pretty evident, especially in those big-time games. And, he was playing with other guys who you think would have made the job a lot easier. That wrecking crew at A&M, they had 4 or 5 guys who are now going to be in the pros next year. And, they all kind of help each other out. But you thought Leal would benefit the most from an impressive group of defensive linemen, and that was not the case one bit.
Yeah, it's definitely disappointing for him. I thought he would do a lot better with that defensive lineman, but just didn't work out for him.
Yep, I think we have an impressive class. I think all these guys have very good upside. I think we'll see all these guys going within the top 60 or 70 selections, no doubt. That's going to wrap everything up for today's episode, Nick. As always, appreciate you joining me.
Thank you so much.
We'll do this again sometime soon. The draft is coming up less than, 14 days away. So make sure you guys stay tuned in, subscribe, comment, like. See you next time.